The fluorescent lights of the diner buzzed overhead like angry wasps, casting a sickly yellow glow over the cracked vinyl booths and coffee-stained countertops. My feet ached, a dull, persistent throb that radiated from my heels up through my calves. 6 hours into my shift, and the smell of burnt coffee and grease had seeped so deeply into my uniform that I wondered if I'd ever wash it out. I was nobody here, just another waitress in a stained apron, refilling cups and clearing plates while the world moved around me like I was furniture. Invisible. Disposable. "Emma, table 7 needs a check," called Marco from behind the counter, his voice barely cutting through the din of clattering dishes and muted conversations. I nodded, pushing a strand of dark hair behind my ear. My reflection in the diner's grimy window showed exactly what I'd become at 23, exhausted, pale, with shadows under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. Working 2 jobs to keep my head above water meant sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. The evening rush had finally died down to a handful of stragglers nursing cold coffee and cheaper meals. I moved through my routine mechanically, my mind already calculating whether this week's tips would cover both my rent and the electric bill, or if I'd have to choose again. The bell above the entrance chimed. I didn't look up immediately. Why would I? It was just another customer, another order, another $1.50 tip if I was lucky. But the diner went quiet. It wasn't a complete silence. The coffee machine still hissed, the kitchen still clanged, but something shifted in the air. A tension that made my skin prickle with awareness. I glanced up from the check I was writing, and my pen froze mid-stroke. 3 men had entered. No, not just men. Presences. The 2 flanking the door were built like concrete blocks poured into expensive suits, their eyes scanning the room with the cold efficiency of security cameras. But it was the man in the center who stole the oxygen from my lungs. He couldn't have been more than 30, with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on a screen, not in a run-down diner in Queens. His suit was midnight blue, tailored so perfectly it seemed like a second skin, and even from across the room, I caught the scent of something expensive. Cedar and leather, and something darker, like smoke and danger. Power radiated from him like heat from asphalt in summer. The kind of power that didn't need to announce itself because everyone already knew. He moved with deliberate grace, his polished shoes clicking against the faded linoleum as he chose a booth in the corner, the one with the best view of both the entrance and the back exit. His guards positioned themselves nearby, one by the door, one with a clear line of sight to their boss. My heart hammered against my ribs. I'd lived in this neighborhood long enough to recognize what I was seeing. You didn't dress like that, move like that, command a room like that unless you were someone. Someone dangerous. "Emma?" Marco's voice was tight, nervous. "Table 12. My throat was dry. "Can't someone else?" "Everyone else is busy." His eyes darted to the corner booth, then back to me. "Just be professional. Be quick." My hands trembled as I grabbed a menu and a glass of water. This was ridiculous. He was just a customer. Just a man. The fact that my body was screaming at me to run, that every instinct I had was telling me to stay far away from that corner booth, didn't matter. I needed this job. I forced my feet to move. Each step across the diner felt like walking through deep water. I was acutely aware of every sound. The scrape of my shoes, the racing of my pulse, the sudden quiet of the other patrons who seemed to be holding their collective breath. Up close, he was even more devastating. Angular jaw, sharp cheekbones, lips that curved in a way that suggested he knew exactly how beautiful he was, and exactly what to do with it. But it was his eyes that trapped me, dark, almost black, with an intensity that felt like being X-rayed, like he could see straight through my cheap uniform to every secret I'd ever kept. "Good evening," I managed, proud that my voice only shook slightly. "Can I get you something to drink?" He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied me with an attention that made my skin flush hot and cold simultaneously. His gaze traveled from my face down to my name tag, then back up, slow and deliberate. "Coffee," he said finally. His voice was silk over gravel, deep and smooth with an edge that suggested violence lurked just beneath the surface. "Black." "Of course." I set down the menu and water glass with hands that wanted to shake. I'll be right back. What's your name? I froze. He could clearly see my name tag, pinned crookedly to my uniform. Emma Martinez, in faded plastic letters. Emma? I said quietly. Emma. He repeated it like he was tasting it, rolling it around in his mouth. How long have you worked here, Emma? This wasn't normal customer conversation. The way he asked, it wasn't small talk. It was an interrogation wrapped in velvet. 6 months, I answered, desperate to escape back to the safety of the counter. I'll get your coffee. I turned to flee, but his voice stopped me. You go to NYU, don't you? Psychology program. My blood turned to ice. How did he know that? My mind raced through possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. I'd never seen him before. I was certain of that. A man like him, you didn't forget. How do you? My daughter is in your cohort. He leaned back against the booth, completely relaxed, despite the bomb he'd just dropped. Sophia Valentino. The world tilted sideways. Sophia. Sweet. Bubbly Sophia, who sat next to me in developmental psychology and loaned me her notes when I had to miss class for my second job. Sophia, whose father she barely mentioned, except to say he was in business and very busy. This was Sophia's father, this man who looked like he'd stepped out of a fever dream, who commanded rooms and had guards and radiated danger like radiation. This was my friend's father. Oh. The syllable came out strangled. She never mentioned. She doesn't. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. We prefer to keep our family business private. Family business. The way he said it made those words carry weight beyond their simple meaning. Your coffee, I stammered, backing away. My heel caught on something, a tear in the linoleum I'd stepped over hundreds of times. My arms windmilled, the empty tray clattering from my hands as I pitched backward, my exhausted body unable to compensate quickly enough. I didn't hit the ground. Strong hands caught me, one arm wrapped around my waist, the other steadying my shoulder. The impact of hitting his chest drove the air from my lungs, not from force, but from the solid heat of him, the sudden overwhelming scent of expensive cologne and masculine warmth. Careful, he murmured, his breath ghosting across my ear. For a moment I couldn't move. His arm was still around my waist, holding me against him with a possessive security that my exhausted brain couldn't quite process as threatening. Even though every rational thought screamed that it should be, I could feel his heartbeat against my back. Steady, unhurried, completely controlled while mine was trying to hammer its way out of my chest. His hand, large and warm, splayed across my ribcage just below my breast. Not inappropriately, he'd caught me from falling, nothing more. But the placement, the heat of his palm through the thin fabric of my uniform made my breath catch. I've got you, he said softly, and there was something in his voice, something dark and promising and deeply unsettling. Reality crashed back. I jerked away from him, my face burning with humiliation and something I didn't want to name. He released me immediately, but not before I felt the slight reluctance in how his fingers trailed across my waist. I'm sorry, I gasped, stumbling back. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean... That was completely... You're my friend's father. That's crazy, I blurted out, the words tumbling over themselves in my desperation to establish some kind of boundary, some kind of normal context to what had just happened. This is... You can't... That was completely inappropriate. I mean, not that you did anything wrong, you caught me, but... Inappropriate. He repeated the word like it amused him. One dark eyebrow arched, and his lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Is that what concerns you, Emma? The way he said my name, like it belonged to him now, sent a shiver down my spine that I desperately wanted to blame on the diner's aggressive air conditioning. You're Sophia's father, I said again, as if repeating it would make the situation make sense, would explain why my skin still burned where he'd touched me. She's my friend. This is... crazy, he supplied. And this time he definitely smiled. It transformed his face from dangerously beautiful to something else entirely, something that made my stomach flip and my knees weaken. Life often is, don't you think? One of his guards appeared at his elbow, murmuring something in rapid Italian. The boss, because that's what he was I understood that now with crystalline clarity, nodded once, his eyes never leaving my face. It seems I'm needed elsewhere. He stood in one fluid motion, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and standing this close, I felt impossibly small, fragile. But I'll be back, Emma, for that coffee. It wasn't a question. It was a promise. He reached into his jacket. I flinched involuntarily, some primal part of my brain screaming danger. But he only extracted a wallet of buttery black leather. He pulled out several bills and placed them on the table. Even from my angle, I could see they were hundreds. For your trouble, he said, and for your discretion. I didn't see anything, I said automatically, the words coming from some survival instinct I didn't know I possessed. His smile widened, showing teeth that were perfectly white and somehow predatory. Smart girl. He moved past me, his guards falling into formation around him. Just before he reached the door, he paused and looked back over his shoulder. Tell Sophia I said hello. Tell her... His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that pinned me in place. Tell her I met one of her friends. I think she'd be very interested to know. Then he was gone, the bell chiming cheerfully, as if the last 5 minutes hadn't just tilted my entire world on its axis. I stood frozen in the middle of the diner, my heart still racing, my skin still tingling where he'd touched me. The money sat on the table, $500 bills for a cup of coffee he never drank. Marco appeared at my elbow, his face pale. Do you know who that was? I shook my head, not trusting my voice. That was Dante Valentino, he whispered, his accent thickening with fear. They call him Il Lupo, the wolf. He runs half of New York's underground. He crossed himself quickly, superstitious. Stay away from him, Emma. Men like that, they don't just meet people. They collect them. But it was too late for warnings, as I looked down at the money on the table. More than I made in 2 weeks. I knew with absolute certainty that Dante Valentino had already decided to collect me. And the most terrifying part, some small, reckless part of me wanted to be caught. I didn't tell Sophia. For 3 days, I carried the weight of that encounter like a stone in my chest, heavy and uncomfortable, impossible to ignore. Every time she texted me about grabbing coffee between classes or complained about her statistics homework, I typed and deleted a dozen responses trying to figure out how to say, I met your father. He touched me. I can't stop thinking about it. The $500 sat in my nightstand drawer, untouched. Blood money, I told myself. Hush money. Money that came with strings attached, invisible threads that would tangle around my throat if I wasn't careful. But my landlord didn't care about my moral crisis. Neither did the electric company. On the 4th day, I broke. I deposited the money and immediately felt like I'd signed something away, some part of myself I couldn't name. The diner felt different now. Every time the bell chimed, my head snapped up, my pulse spiking with a mixture of dread and anticipation that made me nauseous. But Dante Valentino didn't return. His absence was somehow more oppressive than his presence had been, like waiting for a storm you could feel building in your bones. Friday afternoon, I was in the university library, drowning in research papers for my thesis on trauma bonding, when Sophia dropped into the chair across from me with her usual explosive energy. Em, thank God I'm dying. Professor Chen just assigned us another 50 pages of Bowlby for Monday, and I have a family thing this weekend. She dumped her designer bag, Prada, probably worth more than my car, onto the table with a dramatic sigh. Save me. Tell me you've already read it. I had. Twice. Because I couldn't afford to fail, couldn't afford to lose my partial scholarship, couldn't afford anything that might send me tumbling back to where I'd started, broke and desperate in a studio apartment with mold in the bathroom and sirens every night. I can send you my notes, I said, trying to focus on the words in front of me. They swam meaninglessly across the page. You're literally the best. Sophia propped her chin in her hand, studying me with those dark eyes that suddenly seemed far too familiar. Had they always been that shade, that intensity? You look exhausted, though. Are you okay? Double shift yesterday, I lied. The truth was I hadn't slept properly since Tuesday. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt phantom hands on my waist, Heard that voice like silk and gravel saying my name. You work too hard. Sophia's expression shifted to concern, genuine and sweet. She was a good person, I reminded myself. A good friend. Whatever her father was, whatever darkness he lived in, it hadn't touched her. Why don't you come to dinner at my place on Sunday? My dad's actually going to be there for once, and I know he'd love to meet my friends. My pen clattered from my fingers. Your dad? The words came out strangled. I know, shocking, right? He's literally never home. She rolled her eyes affectionately. But he's been asking about school lately, wanting to know about my friends and classes. It's actually kind of sweet. He's trying. He's been asking about school, about her friends, about me. I don't think... I started, but Sophia was already pulling out her phone. Please? It'll be fun, I promise. Our chef makes this incredible osso buco, and the house is ridiculous. You can swim, we can study by the pool, and you can finally meet the mysterious Valentino patriarch. She grinned. Who knows? Maybe you can help me figure him out. You're the psychology major. There were so many reasons to say no. Every survival instinct I possessed was screaming at me to decline, to keep my distance, to pretend that night at the diner had never happened. But Sophia was looking at me with such hopeful enthusiasm, and some reckless part of me, the same part that had felt disappointed every time the diner door opened and it wasn't him, wanted to say yes. Okay, I heard myself say. Sunday. Sophia's house wasn't a house, it was an estate. The Uber dropped me at iron gates that looked like they belonged to a fortress, complete with security cameras and an intercom system. When I gave my name, my voice shaking slightly, the gates swung open silently, revealing a driveway lined with manicured hedges and old-growth trees. The main house rose ahead like something from a film. White stone, tall windows, pillars that spoke of old money and older power. My sundress, the nicest thing I owned, suddenly felt painfully inadequate. A man in a dark suit, not one of the guards from the diner, but cut from the same cloth, opened my car door before I could reach for the handle. Miss Martinez, he said formally, Miss Sophia is expecting you by the pool, if you'll follow me. I followed him through a side gate, my sandals clicking against slate pathways bordered by roses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The pool area opened up before me like something from a magazine. Infinity edge, crystal clear water, expensive loungers arranged artfully around the perimeter. Sophia waved from one of the loungers, looking effortlessly beautiful in a white bikini, her dark hair piled on top of her head. Finally, get changed. The water's perfect. I'd brought a swimsuit, a simple black one-piece I'd bought on sale 3 years ago. The cabana Sophia directed me to was nicer than my entire apartment, all gleaming tile and soft towels that probably cost more per square inch than my bedsheets. When I emerged, wrapping a towel around myself self-consciously, Sophia was texting rapidly, her face scrunched in concentration. Everything okay? I asked. Just my dad. He's running late. She set down her phone with a huff. Typical. I swear, he schedules these family dinners, and then acts like they're business meetings he can just reschedule. Relief and disappointment warred in my chest. Maybe he wouldn't come at all. Maybe I could enjoy this afternoon in this beautiful space with my friend and then leave before... Sophia. The voice cut through the afternoon air like a blade through silk. I turned, and there he was. Dante Valentino stood at the edge of the pool area, backlit by the late afternoon sun in a way that made him look almost supernatural. He'd traded the midnight suit for dark slacks and a white shirt, with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms roped with muscle and marked with scars I hadn't seen before. His eyes found me immediately, locking onto my mostly bare skin with an intensity that made me acutely aware of every exposed inch of myself. Daddy! Sophia jumped up, apparently oblivious to the way the air had suddenly become too thick to breathe. You made it. Come meet Emma. She's in my developmental psych class, remember? I told you about her. Emma, he moved forward with that same predatory grace I remembered, his gaze never leaving my face. Yes. I believe we've met. My heart stopped. Sophia's head whipped between us, confusion clouding her features. Wait, what? When? Your father came into the diner where I work, I said quickly, praying my voice sounded normal. Earlier this week. Small world. Super small. Sophia laughed, but there was a question in her eyes. You didn't mention it, Dad, didn't I? Dante's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. He was close now. Close enough that I could smell cedar and smoke. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. I must have forgotten. So many meetings. They all blur together. Liar. He hadn't forgotten anything. The way he was looking at me now, like I was something he'd been searching for, made it clear that every second of our encounter had been catalogued and filed away in that dangerous mind. Emma's brilliant, Sophia said proudly, completely missing the undercurrent of tension thrumming through the air. Top of our class. She's writing her thesis on trauma bonding. You know, like Stockholm Syndrome and attachment in abusive relationships. Fascinating, Dante murmured, his eyes still fixed on mine. Attachment in dangerous situations. Tell me, Emma, what draws someone to remain in a relationship they know could destroy them? The question hung between us, loaded with meaning I didn't want to unpack. Fear, I said quietly, and the illusion of safety. The captor provides moments of kindness, and the victim's brain bonds to those moments, desperate for connection, even when logic says to run. But sometimes, Dante said, taking another step closer, what looks like a cage is actually protection. Sometimes the captor is the only thing standing between the victim and real danger. That's what they all say, I countered, my academic mind engaging despite my racing heart. Every abuser believes they're protecting their victim. It doesn't make it less destructive. Something flashed in his eyes. Approval, maybe. Challenge, definitely. I think, he said softly, his voice dropping to a register that seemed meant only for me, despite Sophia standing right there. You'd be surprised what you'd accept if you understood the alternative. Okay, you two are being super weird and intense, Sophia interjected, laughing nervously. Can we maybe not turn pool day into a psych seminar? Get in the water before you burn. Dad, stop being intimidating. Dante's gaze slid to his daughter, and his entire demeanor shifted, softening, warming in a way that was almost shocking in its contrast. I'm not intimidating anyone, Piccola. Just having a conversation. Uh-huh. Sophia grabbed my hand, tugging me toward the pool. Come on, Em. Let's leave my dad to his mysterious brooding. I let her pull me away, grateful for the excuse to escape those dark eyes. The water was cool against my overheated skin, and I dove under, letting it close over my head and muffle the world above. When I surfaced, pushing wet hair from my face, Dante was still standing at the edge of the pool, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Then he smiled, a real smile that transformed his features from dangerous to devastating, and began unbuttoning his shirt. What are you doing? Sophia asked, surprised. It's a pool party, isn't it? He shrugged out of the shirt, revealing a torso that belonged in marble. All lean muscle and olive skin marred by more scars, a roadmap of violence survived. Seems a shame to waste it. He dove in without hesitation, barely making a splash, and when he surfaced near us, water streaming from his dark hair, I couldn't breathe properly. This was wrong. So deeply, fundamentally wrong. He was a mafia boss, a criminal. A man who probably had blood on his hands and bodies in his wake. He was my friend's father. And I wanted him anyway. The afternoon dissolved into something surreal. Sophia chattering away about classes and campus gossip while her father circled us like a shark in expensive swim trunks, his attention never straying far from me. Every time I looked up, he was there, watching, assessing, claiming me with his eyes in ways I knew I should find terrifying. When Sophia got out to take a phone call, I found myself alone in the pool with him, the silence stretched, heavy, and expectant. You shouldn't have come, Dante said finally, his voice low enough that it wouldn't carry. Sophia invited me, I replied, trying to sound defiant. I'm her friend. That, he said, moving closer through the water, is the problem. My back hit the pool's edge. He was close now, so close I could see water droplets caught in his eyelashes, could count the faint lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled more than his reputation would indicate. You're going to stay away from her, I said, my voice shaking but firm. She's sweet and kind and nothing like me, he finished. I know. I've spent her entire life trying to keep my world from touching hers. His hand came up, gripping the pool edge beside my head, caging me without actually touching me. But then you walked into my life, Emma Martinez, and suddenly my carefully constructed walls feel very fragile. I didn't walk into anything, I protested weakly. I was just working. And I was just getting coffee. His other hand mirrored the first, trapping me completely. Fate, perhaps, or punishment. I haven't decided which. This is insane. You're her father, he said. I know. Believe me, I've been reminding myself of that fact every hour since Tuesday night. Then you understand why this, whatever this is, can't happen. Oh, I understand. He leaned closer, and I could feel his breath on my damp skin. But understanding something and being able to stop it are two very different things, Dante. His name on my lips felt intimate. Forbidden, say it again. He commanded softly. I shook my head, refusing, even as my body betrayed me by trembling. Emma! Sophia's voice carried from somewhere behind us. Dad! Dinner's ready! Dante pulled back immediately, the spell breaking. But his eyes, God, his eyes, promised that this conversation was far from over. As he hauled himself from the pool in one smooth motion, water sluicing down the planes of his back, I realized with absolute certainty that I was in terrible danger. Not from him, from myself. Dinner was an exercise in psychological torture. The dining room was all dark wood and crystal chandeliers, a table long enough to seat 12 set intimately for 3. Sophia sat at one end, chattering happily about her upcoming exams. I sat across from her, hyper-aware of every movement, every breath. Dante sat at the head of the table, positioned so he could see both of us, so he could watch me. The food was exquisite. The promised osso buco, risotto that melted on my tongue, wine that probably cost more than my textbooks. I tasted none of it. Every bite was ash in my mouth because I could feel his gaze on me like a physical touch, heavy and possessive. So, Emma, Sophia said, twirling her fork through risotto, have you thought about what you're doing this summer? I know you mentioned maybe staying in the city for classes. I need to work, I said automatically. Can't really afford to take time off. Both jobs? Sophia's face scrunched with concern. That's brutal. You'll burn out. Some of us don't have a choice, I said, then immediately regretted the bitterness in my tone. Sorry. I just mean, don't apologize. Dante's voice cut through my stumbling. You work hard. That's admirable. His fingers wrapped around his wine glass, and I found myself mesmerized by the movement. Long fingers, strong hands, a signet ring on his right hand that caught the light. What's your other job besides the diner? I tutor, I said quietly. High school kids, mostly. SAT prep, essay writing. She's amazing at it, Sophia added enthusiastically. One of her students got into Columbia early decision. Impressive. Dante took a sip of wine, his eyes never leaving my face. You clearly have a gift for understanding people. Reading them. It's just psychology, I deflected. No. He set down his glass with deliberate care. It's more than that. Psychology is academic. What you have, the ability to see into people, to understand what drives them, that's instinct. That's dangerous. The word hung between us, loaded with meaning. Dangerous? Sophia laughed. Dad, she's a tutor, not a spy. Dangerous to be that perceptive, Dante clarified, but his eyes told me he meant something else entirely. People don't like being seen. Not really. They'll resent you for it. Or worse, they'll become obsessed with being understood by you. My mouth went dry. We weren't talking about tutoring anymore. I think people want to be seen, I said softly, holding his gaze even though every instinct screamed to look away. They just want to be seen by the right person. Something flickered across his face, raw and hungry, and quickly shuddered. Emma's practically a workaholic, Sophia said, oblivious. I keep telling her she needs to relax more, have some fun. She hasn't even been to a single party this semester. Perhaps she's simply selective about how she spends her time, Dante said. Quality over quantity. Or maybe she's scared, Sophia teased gently. Come on, Em. Live a little. You're 23, not 40. I live plenty, I protested, but it sounded weak even to my own ears. The truth was, I was terrified. Terrified of losing control, of making mistakes I couldn't afford, of becoming like my mother, desperate and dependent on men who promised protection, but delivered pain. "What are you afraid of, Emma?" Dante asked, and the question felt like a hand reaching into my chest to wrap around my heart. "Nothing," I lied. "Everyone's afraid of something." He leaned back in his chair, the picture of casual power. "The question is whether that fear controls you, or whether you control it. And which one are you?" The question escaped before I could stop it. Bold and reckless and deeply inappropriate. Sophia's eyes widened. But Dante smiled, slow and predatory. "I thought you were good at reading people. What do you think?" I thought he was a man who'd taken his fears and forged them into weapons. I thought he was someone who'd decided long ago that being feared was safer than being vulnerable. I thought he was dangerous and damaged and probably damned. I thought I should run. "I think," I said carefully, "that fear and control aren't mutually exclusive. I think the most dangerous people are the ones who've learned to weaponize their fear." His smile widened, showing teeth. "Smart girl." There it was again. Those same words from the diner, delivered like praise and promise and threat all wrapped together. "Okay, this is getting weird again," Sophia announced, pushing back from the table. "I'm going to get dessert. You two play nice while I'm gone." The moment she disappeared through the kitchen door, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dante stood, moving around the table with that liquid grace that reminded me of big cats right before they pounced. He stopped behind my chair, close enough that I could feel the heat of him against my back. "You need to stop coming around," he said quietly. "Sophia's my friend. I know." His hand came to rest on the back of my chair, knuckles brushing my bare shoulder. I jerked at the contact, electricity racing down my spine. "Which is precisely why this is a problem." "I haven't done anything," I protested, my voice barely above a whisper. "You exist." His thumb traced a small circle on my shoulder blade, the touch so light I might have imagined it. "You sit in my house, in my pool, at my table, and you exist in a way that makes me want things I have no right to want." My breath caught. "Then don't you think it's that simple?" He leaned down, his lips near my ear. "You think I haven't tried? I've built an empire on control, Emma. I've done things that would give you nightmares. I've hurt people, killed people, destroyed lives without losing a single night's sleep." His breath was warm against my neck. "But you, a girl in a diner uniform who spilled nothing and broke nothing, you've haunted me for 4 days straight." "Stop," I whispered. But I wasn't sure if I was talking to him or myself. "I should." His hand moved from my shoulder to my neck, fingers spanning my throat with terrifying gentleness. Not choking, not threatening, just holding, claiming. "I should send you away and never let you near my daughter again. I should make sure you understand that my world would eat someone like you alive." "Then why don't you?" My heart was hammering so hard I was sure he could feel it through my skin. "Because I'm a selfish bastard." His thumb stroked along my jaw. "Because I look at you and see something I haven't seen in 15 years. Something clean and bright and unbearably fragile. And instead of protecting you from myself, all I can think about is keeping you. I'm not a thing to be kept," I managed, though my voice shook. "No," he agreed. "You're a person. A brilliant, stubborn, beautiful person who should have better sense than to let a monster touch her." His hand tightened slightly on my throat. Not painful, but possessive. "But you're not pulling away, are you, Emma?" I wasn't. God help me, I wasn't. "Sophia is my daughter, and I love her more than my own life," he said fiercely. "Which is why this, whatever this is, can never go further than this room. Do you understand me?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "But I need you to understand something else." He turned my chair around with one hand, forcing me to face him. He crouched down, bringing us eye to eye, his hands on the armrests caging me in. "I don't share. I don't play games, and I don't do casual." "We're not doing anything," I said, but it sounded like the lie it was. "Not yet." His eyes searched mine with an intensity that felt like drowning. But we will. Maybe not today, maybe not this week. But eventually, you're going to stop fighting this. And when you do, when you finally admit that you feel this too, I'm going to take you. Completely. Do you understand? You're insane, I breathed. Probably. He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear with unexpected tenderness. But I'm also patient. And I always get what I want, Emma. Always. Found it. Sophia's voice echoed from the kitchen. Dante was across the room and back in his seat before I could blink, his expression smoothly neutral as his daughter emerged with tiramisu. Sorry. Our housekeeper reorganized everything, Sophia said cheerfully, setting down plates. You guys okay? You both look flushed. Just warm, I said quickly. Maybe I got too much sun. Dante said nothing, but when I risked a glance at him, he was watching me with an expression that made promises his words hadn't. I left immediately after dessert, claiming an early shift at the diner. Sophia hugged me goodbye, making me promise to come back soon. Dante shook my hand. Perfectly appropriate, perfectly normal. Except his thumb pressed against my pulse point, counting my racing heartbeat like he was memorizing it. It was a pleasure seeing you again, Emma, he said formally, but his eyes said mine. The Uber ride home was a blur. I stumbled into my tiny apartment, locked the door, and collapsed against it, my entire body shaking. This was impossible, unsustainable, insane. He was a criminal, a killer, my friend's father, and I wanted him with an intensity that terrified me more than anything he'd said. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Unknown. You forgot your towel. I'll have it returned to you. My heart stopped. How did he get my number? Unknown. Don't look so worried. I have resources. Use them to know you got home safely. Unknown. Sleep well, Emma. Dream of better men than me. I stared at the messages, my thumb hovering over the delete button. I should block him. Report him. Tell Sophia everything and run as far from the Valentino family as possible. Instead, I saved his number. And late that night, when I couldn't sleep, when my skin still burned where he'd touched me, I typed out a message I would never send. I'm trying to dream of better men. But you're the only one who appears. I deleted it before I could do something catastrophically stupid, but I didn't delete his number. Monday morning, I was running late for my shift at the diner. My mind still foggy from another sleepless night. I'd managed to avoid Sophia all day Sunday, claiming illness via text. It was cowardly, but I needed time to think, to process, to figure out what I was going to do about the fact that I couldn't stop thinking about her father's hands on my throat. I was so distracted that I didn't notice the black SUV following me until it pulled up to the curb beside me. The back window rolled down, and my stomach dropped. Dante Valentino sat in the back seat, looking impossibly crisp in a charcoal suit despite the early hour. Get in. I have work, I said, proud that my voice only shook slightly. Call in sick. I can't just... Emma. His voice dropped to that dangerous register that made my knees weak. Get in the car. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Wrong. He opened the door from the inside, a clear command. We have everything to talk about. But I'd prefer not to have this conversation on a public street. I should have walked away. Should have told him to leave me alone, to respect boundaries, to stop whatever this was before it started. Instead, I got in the car. The door closed behind me with a sound like a cell door slamming shut, and as the SUV pulled away from the curb, I realized I'd just made a choice I could never take back. Dante's hand found mine in the darkness of the back seat, his fingers interlacing with mine possessively. Where are we going? I whispered. Somewhere we can be honest, he said. No daughter. No witnesses. Just you and me, and the truth neither of us wants to admit. The truth was, I was already his. I just hadn't admitted it yet. The SUV wound through Manhattan with purpose, leaving behind the familiar chaos of my neighborhood for streets I'd only seen in movies. Tree-lined, quiet, dripping with old money. My hand remained clasped in Dante's, his thumb tracing absent patterns on my palm that made concentration impossible. Where are we going? I asked again, when the silence became unbearable. Somewhere safe. His eyes never left the window, scanning the streets with practiced vigilance. Somewhere we won't be interrupted. The car pulled up to a building of gray stone and Art Deco elegance, a pre-war apartment building that screamed exclusivity. The doorman nodded respectfully as Dante's driver opened our door, and I felt impossibly small and out of place in my diner uniform and worn sneakers. Dante's hand pressed against the small of my back, guiding me through a lobby of marble and mirrors, into an elevator lined with mahogany. The operator, an actual elevator operator, pressed the button for the penthouse without being told. "You're not going to murder me, are you?" I tried to joke, but my voice cracked on the words. Dante's expression was unreadable. "If I wanted you dead, Emma, you'd already be gone. What I want from you is far more complicated." The elevator opened directly into an apartment that stole my breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park, the morning light spilling across hardwood floors and minimalist furniture that probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years. Everything was cream and charcoal and clean lines, beautiful and cold, like a museum exhibit of how rich people lived. "Is this where you live?" I asked, moving to the windows because looking at the view felt safer than looking at him. "One of my properties. I use it when I need privacy." He shrugged out of his suit jacket, draping it over a chair with careless elegance. "Sophia doesn't know about this place. Neither does anyone else who matters. Except me," I said quietly. "Except you." He moved behind me, close enough that I could feel his heat. "Do you understand what that means, Emma? Bringing you here?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. "It means I'm trusting you with something I trust no one with: location, access, vulnerability." His reflection appeared in the glass beside mine. Darker, larger, overwhelming. "It means I'm giving you a weapon you could use to destroy me. I would never." "I know." His hand came to rest on my hip, a brand through the thin fabric of my uniform. "That's the problem. I know you wouldn't, which makes you either incredibly loyal or dangerously naive. Maybe both," I whispered. He turned me around, and suddenly we were chest to chest, his hands framing my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. "I brought you here to give you a choice," he said, his voice rough. "A real one. Without Sophia nearby, without witnesses or consequences you can't take back. I need you to understand what you'd be choosing." "I don't understand. I'm a bad man, Emma." His thumbs stroked my cheekbones, and I shivered. "Not complicated, not misunderstood, genuinely bad. I've killed people, not in self-defense, not in war. I've ordered executions. I've destroyed families, businesses, lives. I traffic in violence and fear, and I'm good at it." His eyes searched mine with desperate intensity. "And if you stay, if you choose this, I will consume you. I will be possessive and jealous and overprotective to the point of suffocation. I will want to own every smile, every thought, every breath. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. "You're trying to scare me away. I'm trying to be honest." His forehead dropped to mine, and I felt him trembling, actually trembling. "Because once this starts, Emma, I won't be able to stop. I won't want to stop. And you need to know that before you make a choice you can't unmake." "What if I've already chosen?" The words escaped before I could stop them, reckless and true and terrifying. His breath hitched. "Then God help us both." He kissed me. Not gently, not carefully. He kissed me like a drowning man gasping for air, his hands tangling in my hair, his body pressing mine back against the cold glass of the window. I gasped against his mouth, and he swallowed the sound, deepening the kiss until I couldn't remember why this was wrong. Couldn't remember anything except the taste of him. Coffee and danger and dark promises. My hands found his chest, and I meant to push him away. I swear I did. But instead, my fingers curled into his shirt, pulling him closer, desperate for more contact, more heat, more of whatever this madness was that had been building between us since the moment I'd looked up and seen him in that diner. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard, his pupils blown wide with desire that matched my own. "This is insane," I panted. "Yes." He kissed my jaw, my neck, the hollow of my throat. Completely insane. You're my friend's father. I know. His teeth grazed my collarbone and I whimpered. Believe me, I know. She'll hate me, I said, reality crashing back. Sophia will... She can never know. He pulled back, his hands gripping my shoulders with bruising intensity. Not now. Maybe not ever. Do you understand, Emma? This. Us. It stays between these walls until I can figure out how to make it work. And if you can't, his jaw clenched, then I'll deal with the consequences. But I won't lose you. Not now that I've had you. You haven't had me, I protested weakly. His smile was dark and knowing. Not yet, but I will, cara mia, soon. My phone buzzed in my pocket, shattering the moment. I fumbled for it with shaking hands. Sophia's name flashed across the screen. Sophia. Where are you? You're not at the diner and you're not answering your phone, getting worried. Guilt crashed over me like a wave. What was I doing? This beautiful, kind girl who'd been nothing but a friend to me, and I was pressed against windows kissing her father, planning secret meetings, becoming exactly the kind of person I'd always despised. I have to go, I said, my voice breaking. This is wrong, Dante. It's all wrong. Wrong doesn't mean impossible. He caught my wrist as I tried to move past him. And it doesn't change how you feel. How I feel doesn't matter, I shot back. Sophia matters. Your relationship with her matters. I'm not going to be the thing that destroys that. You think I'd let that happen? His voice hardened. You think I haven't spent every second since meeting you trying to figure out how to have both? How to keep my daughter's love, and have you too. You can't have both. The words came out too loud, too raw. That's not how this works. Eventually she'll find out, and she'll hate us both, and you'll have to choose. And we both know who you'll choose. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. Recognition, definitely. You're right, he said quietly. If it came down to it, I'd choose Sophia. Every time. She's my daughter, my blood, my responsibility. The words shouldn't have hurt. I'd known it was true. But hearing him say it felt like a knife between my ribs. Then let me go, I whispered. No. His hand cupped my face, forcing me to look at him, because I'm going to find a way to have both. I didn't build everything I have by accepting limitations, Emma. I make the world bend to my will. You can't bend this. Watch me. He kissed me again. Hard and possessive, a seal on a promise I didn't fully understand. Go. Answer Sophia. Be her friend. But know that this isn't over, not by a long shot. The ride back to my neighborhood was silent, except for my racing thoughts. Dante's driver dropped me a block from the diner with instructions from his boss to ensure she arrives safely, like I was something precious, something worth protecting. I called Sophia from the sidewalk, spinning a lie about a family emergency and my phone dying. She accepted it without question because that's who she was, trusting, kind, everything her father wasn't, everything I was betraying. The next 2 weeks were torture. I avoided Sophia's calls, made excuses to skip study sessions, threw myself into work until exhaustion was my only companion. But Dante was everywhere. Not physically. He was smart enough not to show up at the diner again, but his presence haunted me anyway. Flowers arrived at my apartment with no card. Expensive ones. Peonies and garden roses that must have cost hundreds. I threw them away and found another bouquet the next day. My student loan payment was mysteriously paid in full. When I called the company, they said an anonymous benefactor had covered it. $5,000, gone just like that. The diner's owner suddenly decided to give me a raise, substantial enough that I could quit my tutoring job if I wanted. When I asked why, he got nervous and said something about a business consultation that had gone well. Dante was taking care of me. From the shadows, with invisible hands, he was weaving a net of protection and provision around my life that made it harder and harder to pretend I didn't want exactly what he was offering. Then Sophia showed up at my apartment. I'd just gotten home from a closing shift, dead on my feet, when her knock echoed through my tiny studio. For a moment, I considered not answering, cowardly, but self-preserving. "Em, I know you're in there," she called. "Your neighbor said you just got home. Please, I just want to talk." Guilt propelled me to the door. She stood in my dingy hallway looking like a magazine ad for wealth. Designer jeans, cashmere sweater, perfect makeup, and something in her eyes made my stomach drop. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside, acutely aware of how shabby my apartment must look to her, the second-hand furniture, the water-stained ceiling, the refrigerator that hummed too loudly. She sat on my threadbare couch and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "You've been avoiding me. I've been busy. Don't." Her voice was sharper than I'd ever heard it. "Don't lie to me, Em. We've been friends for months. I know when you're pulling away." My throat tightened. "Sophia, is it because of money?" she asked suddenly. "Because I have more than you? I know sometimes that makes things weird, but I thought we were past that." "No," I said honestly. "It's not about money." "Then what?" Her eyes searched mine. Did I do something? Say something wrong? "Yes," I thought. "You invited me into your life, into your home, and I repaid you by wanting your father. It's complicated," I managed. "Uncomplicate it." She leaned forward, earnest. "You're one of the few real friends I have, Emma. Most people just want to be around me because of my dad, or his money, or his connections. But you liked me before you even knew who my family was. That matters." The guilt was suffocating. "Sophia, my dad asked about you," she said, and my heart stopped. "Last week. Wanted to know if you were okay, if you needed anything. It was weird. He never asks about my friends. What did you tell him?" The question came out strangled, that I was worried about you, that you'd been distant. She tilted her head, studying me. He got this look on his face. Like he knew something I didn't. My pulse thundered in my ears. "I'm sure he was just... Emma." Her voice dropped. "My dad is a lot of things, but subtle isn't one of them when it comes to protecting what's his. And lately, he's been acting like you're under his protection. That's ridiculous. Is it?" She stood, pacing my small space. "The flowers. The sudden good fortune. My father operates in patterns, and I've been watching him my whole life. This is what he does when he's claimed something." Claimed. The word came out weak. She turned to face me, and her expression was careful, calculating. More her father's daughter than I'd ever seen. "I need you to be honest with me," she said quietly. "Is there something going on between you and my dad?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a gun. I could lie. Should lie. Protect everyone involved with a simple denial. But looking into Sophia's eyes, intelligent, knowing, already suspicious, I knew the lie wouldn't hold. "Yes," I whispered, and watched her face crumble. The silence that followed my confession was deafening. Sophia stared at me like I'd struck her, her face cycling through emotions too quickly to track. Shock, hurt, disgust, confusion. "How long?" Her voice was barely audible. 2 weeks. Not even that. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling exposed. "Nothing's really happened, we've just what?" She laughed, bitter and harsh. "Just kissed? Just fucked? Just decided to betray me behind my back?" "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Emma?" She whirled on me, and I'd never seen her like this, fury making her beautiful face sharp and cold. "Explain to me how my friend, my trusted friend, ends up with my father, a man twice your age who kills people for a living." "I know how it sounds. Do you?" She stepped closer, and I could see tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. "Do you have any idea what it's like to be me? To have everyone around you want something from you? From your family? From your father's power? I thought you were different. I thought you actually gave a shit about me." "I do." The words burst from me desperately. "Sophia, I never meant for this to happen. I tried to stay away, tried to stop it. Clearly not hard enough." She swiped angrily at her eyes. "God, I'm so stupid. The way he looked at you at dinner, the questions about you. I saw it and I ignored it because I trusted you both. Shame burned through me like acid. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this." She grabbed her purse, heading for the door. "I need to think. I need to not look at you right now." "Sophia, please." She paused at the door, her back to me. My father destroys everything he touches, Emma. Everyone who gets close to him ends up dead or damaged or wishing they were. I've watched it my whole life. She looked back over her shoulder, and the pity in her eyes was worse than her anger. You think you're special? You think you'll be different? You're just the newest thing he wants to possess. The door slammed behind her, and I collapsed onto the couch, my entire body shaking. What had I done? What had I thrown away for a man I barely knew? For feelings I couldn't explain? For a connection that defied every rational thought? My phone buzzed. Dante. Sophia just called. She knows. Come to the penthouse. Now. Me. I can't. I've done enough damage. Dante. Emma. This isn't a request. Me. I'm done. This was a mistake. All of it. 3 minutes later, someone was pounding on my door. I knew who it was before I opened it. Dante stood in my hallway looking like barely controlled violence, jaw clenched, eyes blazing, still in a suit that suggested he'd come straight from whatever criminal empire he'd been running. Move, he commanded, pushing past me into my apartment. You can't just... I can do whatever I want. He rounded on me, and I backed up instinctively. What the hell were you thinking, telling her? She asked. She knew something was going on. So you confirmed it? He ran a hand through his hair, the first crack in his composure I'd ever seen. Do you have any idea what position you've put me in? Put us both in? There is no us, I shouted, my own temper finally breaking. There never was. This whole thing is insane. You're insane if you think this could ever work. It was working until you opened your mouth. It was a lie. Tears burned my eyes. We were lying to someone we both care about, sneaking around like criminals. I am a criminal, he shot back. That's the point you keep missing, Emma. This is who I am. I don't do things the right way, the clean way, the way that makes everyone comfortable. I take what I want, and I make it work. Well, you can't have this, my voice broke. You can't have me and your daughter's love and everything else you want. The world doesn't work that way, no matter how powerful you are. Watch me. He grabbed my wrist, pulling me closer. You think I'm going to let you walk away? After everything? You don't have a choice. I always have a choice. His other hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. And I choose you. I choose this. Whatever it takes. Even if it costs you, Sophia. The question hung between us, and for the first time, I saw real fear flicker across his features. It won't come to that, he said. But it sounded like he was trying to convince himself. It already has. I pulled away from him, putting distance between us. She looked at me like I was garbage, Dante. Like I was just another person using her to get to you. And maybe I am. Maybe that's exactly what this is. You don't believe that. I don't know what I believe anymore. I pressed my palms against my eyes, exhausted. I just know that I can't do this. I can't be the reason you lose your daughter. I can't be that person. So what? His voice went cold. You're just going to run? Pretend this never happened? Yes. The word tasted like ashes. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I won't let you. You don't own me, I said quietly. No matter how much you want to, no matter how many flowers you send, or bills you pay, or lives you rearrange, you don't own me. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. You think I've been trying to own you? Emma, if I wanted to own you, you'd already be mine. What I've been doing is courting you, showing you what I can provide, what I can give you. But you're right. I don't own you. He moved closer, predatory. Yet. There is no yet. His phone rang, cutting through the tension. He glanced at the screen and cursed viciously in Italian. I have to take this, he said, his jaw tight, but this conversation isn't over. He answered in rapid Italian, his voice dropping to that dangerous tone I'd heard once before. Whatever he was hearing made his expression darken, and fear skittered down my spine. He ended the call and looked at me with an intensity that stole my breath. Get your things, he said quietly. You're coming with me. What? No. Emma. He grabbed my shoulders, and genuine fear flickered in his eyes. That was my security team. Someone's been asking questions about you, taking photographs, following you. My blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? I have enemies, dangerous ones. And now that you've been seen with me, at my home, in my car, you're a target. His hands tightened on my shoulders. I need to keep you safe until I can figure out who's behind this. This is insane. This is my world. He cut me off. And you're in it now, whether you like it or not. So you can come with me willingly, or I can carry you out of here, your choice. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was overreacting, that this was just another manipulation tactic. But the fear in his eyes was real, the tension in his body was real. And if someone was following me, taking pictures, for how long? I asked quietly. As long as it takes. He pulled out his phone, already texting rapid commands. Pack a bag. Clothes for a week, anything you can't live without. My hands shook as I threw things into a duffel bag. Jeans, shirts, toiletries, my laptop. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. What about my jobs? I asked. I can't just disappear. Already handled. The diner's been told you had a family emergency. Your tutoring students are being reassigned. He was all business now, dangerous and efficient. Your rent for the next 3 months is paid. Nothing will fall apart while you're gone. You can't just arrange my entire life. I can, and I have. He took my bag from me, slinging it over his shoulder. Now move. My car's waiting. The SUV was indeed waiting, engine running. 2 guards flanking it with hands inside their jackets. This was real. This was actually happening. Dante bundled me into the back seat and climbed in after me, immediately on his phone issuing orders in English and Italian. The car pulled away from my building, and I watched my neighborhood, my life, disappear through the rear window. Where are we going? I asked numbly. Somewhere safe. Somewhere no one will find you. What about Sophia? His jaw clenched. She's already at the estate. Extra security. No leaving until this is resolved. She'll think I've disappeared because I'm a coward. She'll think you're safe, which is what matters. He finally pocketed his phone and turned to me, his expression softening slightly. I know you're scared. I know this isn't what you wanted, but I will keep you safe, Emma. That's a promise. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why do you care this much? You barely know me. I know enough. His hand found mine, interlacing our fingers. I know you're brilliant and stubborn and kind in ways I haven't been in decades. I know you see me, really see me. And you're still here. I know that when I thought someone might hurt you, I felt something I haven't felt since Sophia was born. Genuine fear. That's not love, I whispered. That's obsession. Maybe. He raised our joined hands, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. But it's mine. You're mine. And I protect what's mine. The safe house turned out to be a compound upstate. All stone walls and security gates and guards with automatic weapons. It was beautiful in a fortress kind of way, perched on a hillside with views that would have been breathtaking if I wasn't a virtual prisoner. Dante installed me in a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment, with a bathroom of marble and gold that looked like something from a palace. Then he disappeared, leaving me with guards outside my door and no answers. I lasted 2 hours before I went looking for him. He was in a study lined with books and weapons in glass cases, bent over a desk covered in photographs and documents. He looked up when I entered, exhaustion carving lines around his eyes. You should be resting, he said. I should be a lot of things. I moved closer, looking at the photographs spread across his desk. My stomach dropped. They were of me, walking to work, leaving class, sitting in a coffee shop. Dozens of them, taken over weeks. Oh my God. This is why you're here. His voice was grim. Someone's been tracking you for at least a month, long before I ever walked into that diner. My mind raced. So this isn't about you? About being seen with you? I don't know yet. He stood, coming around the desk. But I'm going to find out. And when I do, the violence implicit in those words should have scared me. Instead, I felt something else. Protected. Safe. Claimed in a way that was definitely obsessive and possibly insane, but undeniably real. I'm sorry, I said quietly. About Sophia. About everything. Don't be. He pulled me against him, and I went willingly, letting myself be held for the first time since this nightmare began. This is my fault. I should have been more careful, should have protected you better. You can't control everything. Watch me try. He pressed a kiss to my hair. I'm going to fix this, Emma. All of it. The threat, Sophia. Everything. I'm going to make it so you can have your life back and still be mine. That's impossible. I don't believe in impossible. He tilted my face up, and his eyes held promises and threats in equal measure. I believe in what I want, and I want you. Safe, happy, and mine. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and absolutely certain. And despite everything, despite the insanity of this situation and the impossibility of any future together, I kissed him back. Because he was right. I was his. Had been since that first moment in the diner when his eyes met mine and the world tilted on its axis. The question was whether I'd survive being claimed by a wolf. 3 days passed in the compound, like we were the only 2 people in the world. Dante worked tirelessly, making calls and coordinating his people, hunting whoever had been following me with single-minded intensity. And when he wasn't working, he was with me, talking, touching, teaching me about his world in ways that should have terrified me, but somehow didn't. On the 4th day, Sophia showed up. I was reading on the terrace when I heard her voice echoing through the halls, demanding to see me. Dante tried to intercept her, but she pushed past him, emerging onto the terrace with fury in her eyes. You, she said, pointing at me. We need to talk. Dante moved to intervene, but I shook my head. It's okay. I owe her this. He hesitated, then nodded. I'll be inside. You need me, you call. When we were alone, Sophia sat in the chair across from me, her posture rigid. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I've been thinking, she said finally, about you and my dad, about how furious I am, how betrayed I feel. She paused, but also about how I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. I blinked, surprised. Sophia. Let me finish. She held up a hand. My mom left when I was 5. Did you know that? She couldn't handle his world, couldn't handle what he was. Since then, it's been just us. He's been father and mother and protector and everything, and he's never let anyone close. Never. I didn't know, I said softly. He's been alone for 15 years, Emma. By choice. Because keeping people at a distance kept them safe, kept me safe. Her eyes met mine. Still hurt, but softer now. And then you walked into that diner, and I watched him crack open in ways I didn't think he was capable of anymore. Tears pricked my eyes. I never meant to hurt you. I know. She sighed, looking suddenly older than her 22 years. And I know my dad. When he wants something, he doesn't let go. Which means you're not going anywhere, whether I like it or not. If you can't accept this, I'll walk away, I said, meaning it. You're more important. To him or to you, she challenged. Both. She studied me for a long moment, then shook her head. You really mean that, don't you? Yes. Which is probably why he's so obsessed with you. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. You're the first person who's ever chosen me over him, even knowing what he can give you, what he can do for you. You'd still walk away from me. You're my friend, I said simply. And he's what? Your lover? Your boyfriend? Your mobster sugar daddy? The words were bitter, but there was less venom in them now. Honestly, I don't know what he is. I looked down at my hands. I just know that when I'm with him, I feel seen in ways I've never felt before. Like all the parts of me I've been hiding, the anger, the ambition, the darkness. He sees them and wants them anyway. Sophia was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was careful. I can't give you my blessing. Not yet. Maybe not ever. This is too weird, too complicated, too much. I understand. But, she continued, I also can't hate you for making my father human again, for making him feel something other than responsibility and violence. She stood, moving to the terrace railing. So here's the deal. You don't flaunt this in my face. You don't make me choose between you, and we figure out some kind of messed up new normal. Hope bloomed in my chest. Really? I reserve the right to be weird about it for, like, forever, she added. And if he hurts you, I'll kill him myself. I laughed, surprised and grateful and overwhelmed. Deal. She turned back to me, and her expression was serious. But Emma? He's dangerous. Like genuinely, legitimately dangerous. Whatever's happening with this stalker situation, this is his world. Violence and territory and enemies who would kill you just to hurt him. Are you ready for that? Before I could answer, an explosion rocked the compound. The windows blew inward, glass raining down like deadly snow. I threw myself over Sophia instinctively, covering her as shouts erupted from inside the house. Gunfire. Rapid, professional, terrifyingly close. Dante burst onto the terrace, blood on his shirt, a gun in his hand. Get down! Now! He grabbed us both, hauling us back into the house and down a hallway I'd never seen before. His guards appeared, forming a protective barrier as more gunfire echoed through the compound. What's happening? Sophia demanded, her voice shaking. Rival family, they found us. Dante's voice was cold, controlled, lethal. He pushed open a door to reveal stairs leading down. Safe room, both of you. Now. I'm not leaving you, I started. Emma. He gripped my face in his hands, his eyes fierce. I will handle this, but I can't do that if I'm worried about you. Please, keep my daughter safe. The please broke me. I nodded, taking Sophia's hand and pulling her toward the stairs. The safe room was underground, concrete and steel, stocked with supplies. We could hear the battle raging above. Muffled explosions, gunfire, screaming. Sophia was crying silently, and I held her, both of us shaking. He'll be okay, I whispered. He has to be okay. 2 hours later, the door opened. Dante stood there, covered in blood and gunpowder residue, exhausted but alive. His eyes found mine immediately, and the relief in them was profound. It's over, he said. They're dead, all of them. Sophia ran to him, and he held her tight, murmuring assurances in Italian, but over her shoulder, his eyes stayed locked on mine. Later, after Sophia had been settled in her room with guards and sedatives, Dante found me on the terrace, staring at the stars. You could have died, I said without turning around, but I didn't. He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, because I had something to live for. This is insane. Yes. He pressed a kiss to my neck. But it's our insane, mine and yours. I turned in his arms, looking up at this dangerous, damaged, devoted man. What happens now? Now? He smiled, and it was real, and warm, and everything I'd never expected from someone like him. Now I court you properly. Now I win my daughter's acceptance one awkward family dinner at a time. Now I eliminate any remaining threats and make sure you can live your life without fear. And then I marry you. He said simply, because I'm Italian and traditional and possessive as hell, and because you're mine, Emma Martinez. You've been mine since the moment you looked up at me in that diner and didn't run. I should have run, I whispered, but you didn't. His forehead touched mine. You stayed. You chose this. You chose me. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. He kissed me as the sun rose over the compound, bathing us in golden light. And despite everything, the violence, the impossibility, the absurdity of falling for my friend's father who happened to be a Mafia boss, I knew he was right. I'd chosen this. Chosen him. Chosen a life that would never be normal or safe or simple, but it would be ours. And somehow, that was enough. Epilogue. 6 months later, I stood in front of a mirror in a dress of ivory silk, my hands shaking as Sophia adjusted my veil. You look beautiful, she said softly. Stupidly, unfairly beautiful. You don't have to do this, I told her for the 100th time. Be my maid of honor. If it's too weird, shut up. She squeezed my hand. It's definitely weird, like therapy for life weird, but you make him happy. And weirdly, he makes you happy, so I'm choosing to be supportive and only occasionally traumatized. I laughed, tears threatening my carefully applied makeup. Outside, in a garden filled with flowers that probably cost more than my old apartment, Dante waited. We'd had 6 months of careful courtship, of family dinners that were sometimes awkward but increasingly warm, of building something real beneath the obsession and desire. The rival family had been eliminated. The stalker, a bitter ex-associate of Dante's, had been dealt with. My life had been returned to me, upgraded with security and resources, but fundamentally still mine. And through it all, Dante had been patient and possessive and perfectly himself. When I walked down the aisle on Sophia's arm, because I had no father to give me away, and she'd insisted, Dante's eyes never left my face. The fierce love in them, the possessive devotion, the promise of protection and passion and partnership. "You're my friend's father. That's crazy," I'd told him once, in a diner that felt like a lifetime ago. Now, as I took his hands and promised him forever, I realized that crazy was exactly what I'd needed. Crazy enough to believe in love at first sight. Crazy enough to fight for something impossible. Crazy enough to let myself be caught by a wolf who turned out to have a heart. "I love you," he whispered as he slid the ring onto my finger. "I know," I whispered back. That's the craziest part of all. And when he kissed me, sealing vows that defied logic and probability and every rule I'd ever lived by, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd made the right choice, because some cages weren't prisons. Some were promises. And some wolves didn't devour you, they devoted themselves to you instead.